Guys, let's start off with the NFL. We got bet on and fade teams. Who wants to start us off? Jeff, you want to start us off? Who's your bet on team in the NFL?
The Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. I mean, Drew, they haven't won a division since 1999. They're solely in first place in a division that, look, I mean, you got Houston, but overall, I think they're really overachieving and playing very well. They've had an awesome year. You look at even the last game they played, 518 yards against the hapless Colts, but they did it with TJ or not TJ Fournette,
Leonard
Fournette. TJ Yeldon that was in there. He killed it. TJ Yeldon's a good second back they have there. Chris Ivory involved as well. So they have a little bit of a three-headed monster. So when Fournette can't go or he's injured, you could kind of, fall back on Yeldon. And look, Blake Bortles has been pretty good this year, and that's the key to their success. I mean, he's turned the ball over a couple times, but it hasn't been those terrible turnovers and bad spots or anything. And I haven't even gotten to the defense yet. This defense is very stout. I mean, lead the league in sacks, takeaways, interceptions. They had another 10-sack game the other day. I think they did, right?
Yes.
Just amazing what they've done overall. This defensive line's been fantastic. I think they see their eye on the prize. They won a division crown. Leonard Fournette was a great pick. He was one of those running backs, Donnie, that when we talked about the draft, he was a guy to me that I think was a top 10 caliber player. If he could stay healthy, he, as we've seen, is a load in the NFL. You don't really want to move on a running back much anymore early in the draft, but he is one you make a move on. I really like what I'm seeing from the Jags. I think it's something that they're starting to turn some heads, like their defense. Blake's not turning the ball over. Got a franchise player in Fournette if he could stay healthy. Like the Jags a lot.
Yeah, I like that play, Jeff. Donnie, you got another one for us?
Yeah, give me a bet on team right now. A famous actor, famous governor once said these magical words: "Go Chargers, go." I'm going to take the Chargers as a hot team moving forward, and they're in another good spot for me this week. If you're laying points with the Chargers, I'm not that enthusiastic. But if the Chargers are getting points, they're always in the game in the fourth quarter. Look at the last three games. Getting 3 points from the Giants, end up beating them 27-22. Getting 3 points from Oakland, beating them 17-16. Getting 1 point from Denver, beating them 21-0. Now you're going to look and go on the road. I know, hey, everybody saw Tom Brady last week. Boy, they're back on track. The Chargers will hang close again, getting over a touchdown on this one, 7.5, the most outlets there. They're my buy-on team right now when they're getting points. Go, Chargers, go.
Donnie, is something you're bringing into this kind of their unique situation with where they're playing their home games and them taking, a few weeks to kind of get acclimated to that?
I don't know if it's so much there. I mean, it's always nice to have a home field advantage, but that's just the Chargers' MO. Whether they were at Qualcomm in the past or where they're playing, the Chargers just seem, when they need to win the football game, they're probably not going to win it. But it's one of those teams where Phillip Rivers getting 3.5 or more points. He's a really good typical fourth quarter quarterback that can bring you down the field, he specializes in the 5-yard out where you just need to move the football down the field. That's what I like about him. If you're looking at giving me 7 or 7+ with the Chargers in any environment, home or away, I'm going to lean on taking Phillip Rivers because it's very rare that he quits on the ball club. The team's coming along well, a couple straight wins, almost beat the Eagles. Should be 4 straight wins if that game goes one way or another. But hey, I'm going to buy the Chargers right now, especially getting points here.
All right, man. Can we get one more, Arnold?
Go, Chargers, go. Get to the chopper. There we go.
Thanks, bro. All right. At Babano, Ian Cameron, what do you got?
I remember those Arnold Schwarzenegger commercials when he was promoting California, Visit California. I only have one question for you. When can you start? And he'd always say that basically, when can you start to come to California? And those commercials just drove me nuts because they always aired here all the time in Canada. But actually, Donnie stole some of my thunder. I was looking at Chargers as a bet on team for sure. Especially on the road. And guess where they are this week? On the road. I mean, they just feel like they're comfortable in their own skin, although they finally did have a good game and a home win against Denver last week. I think that was probably a little bit more bad Denver as much as it was good Chargers, but I still like the way this team is coming together. Phillip Rivers playing well. They're starting to build a nice little defense here with this LA Chargers team as well. Joey Bosa and company getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. That secondary's managed to, stem the tide of some early struggles and are playing better in terms of defending against the pass as well, which has been a positive for the LA Chargers. So good signs from them. I'm going to mention another one just to keep it a different perspective. even though they're a little banged up, Houston Texans for me. They're in a good spot here, coming off a bye week here this week. Even in Seattle, I'm still not convinced Seattle's all that great. The great shakes. Let me see what you can do. You were fortunate to beat the Rams. I mean, very fortunate. I mean, they got outgained by 134 yards in that football game. Even though they won 16-10, they beat the New York Giants. Good for you. Everybody's beaten the New York Giants. Indianapolis is terrible. Tennessee was a loss for them on the road. San Francisco, they lose at Green Bay. Where's the quality victories? I mean, the Rams win is good, but again, heavily outgained. Houston's in a spot here where they're, even with the injuries, you got Deshaun Watson playing well, team with the rest, off a bye. Houston to me, and along with the Chargers, teams I'll be looking at back this week.
Yeah, guys, good bet on teams. We also got fade teams want to get into in the NFL. Just want to bring up, remember to go to the SBR Best Sportsbook page to really see what sportsbooks to go with, the A+, the A-rated sportsbooks, who's paying the fastest, what's the best lines for certain sports, things like that. So make sure to check that out, clicking around on the SBR homepage. But guys, let's get into to fade teams. Jeff, you want to you got a fade team for us in the NFL?
Yeah, I heard someone mention Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa, by the way, guys, I don't know if many people know, great grandson of a big mob boss in Chicago. I don't know if anyone knows that. I've done some research on that. A fairly interesting person, his great-grandfather. He was a de facto boss after Al Capone went away. He headed the outfit for 30 years or so. Interesting bloodlines there for Bosa. Falcons, a fade team for me. Look, I think we just need to get realistic that with Steve Sarkisian, this offense just isn't that good. Last 3 games, 13.7 points a game. If you watch Sunday evening, I mean, you notice that this offense just is really struggling. I mean, they don't look as crisp. They look nowhere near as crisp as they were. And they got a Jets team they're facing this week that's been very good against the spread, 3-0 at home. Hey, if they lose to the Miami Dolphins, who knows what will happen on the road here. They play 5 of their last 6 games against division opponents. They've lost 3 straight, and they're really just in a really tough way right now, the Falcons. Defensively, they've been decent, not great. I think they're more of like a bend but don't break. We'll see what happens. Overall, I know they have Matt Ryan. They have plenty of playmakers, but, I mean, guys, we're into almost November here, and they're still kind of struggling a little bit. You have the Saints coming up, kind of in their wings. Tampa will be a tough game to play. Carolina is always decent. This isn't an easy division or anything. They don't have – they're not the Vikings where they can just kind of cruise because the next best team has their quarterback out. They're going to have tough games all year. They're not playing well. And Steve Sarkisian, I don't know if he doesn't look like the guy there. I mean, I've heard talk, we were talking Sunday night, Gabe and I, about maybe moving on from him, doing something different. It's just not working right now with Steve Sarkisian.
In bringing that up, I mean, who's the offensive coordinator before Kyle Shanahan? Wait, is that right?
Yeah, Shanahan, yep.
Hey, where's he at now? Do we know?
He's at San Francisco. He's the coach.
San Francisco coach.
Okay. Yeah. Never mind. But we'll just leave it at that. All right. Ian Cameron, save me from that, buddy.
That's okay. Hey, that's all right. That's allowed.
Yeah, they're 0-7. Niners are 0-7 anyway, Drew. So really, where is he actually?
Yeah, where is he? You can't find him. Can't find him with a telescope.
Point up to bet on him, but guess that would have been wrong.
Well, when you got Hoyer and Beathard to work with, it's like, you're working with tools that aren't going to get the job done, for a handyman. So that's the way it goes. But Indianapolis, to me, a bet against team. I mean, I know you're not getting any point spread bargains right now to fade the Colts, but this is a mess of a team. This is a sieve of a defense. Jacksonville, of all teams, not that Jacksonville's a horrible offensive team, but the fact that they got shredded against the pass from Blake Bortles tells you all you need to know about how bad the Colts are on the defensive side of the football. That was really a pass-happy attack that the Jacksonville Jaguars employed last week against the Colts, and they had no problem putting up big points against this horrendous defense. And I mean horrendous. You look at the stats, 425 yards per game allowed, 6.6 yards per play allowed, 300 yards through the air allowed by this Colts defense. And I know Andy Dalton and the offense for the Cincinnati Bengals going into this game on Sunday certainly has been up and down. Been a little bit more up lately, though. I mean, I think Bill Lazor at the OC position. It's been a little bit of a breath of fresh air. They've gone with a little bit more tempo. They've gone with a little bit quick passing game, get the ball out of Andy Dalton's hands quickly. And on the flip side, we see Jacoby Brissett and this Colts offense look at times decent at home. On the road, they've really struggled. And even at home last week, they get completely shut out, unable to move the football, really even threaten. The one time they got into the red zone, I believe they turned the football over against Jacksonville. So Jacoby Brissett having growing pains. This Colts team certainly doesn't have the offense or the quarterback play to outscore their defensive problems. And now they're going into Cincinnati, tough spot. You got to sometimes hold your heart a little bit, hold your breath a little bit when you're thinking about laying points with Cincinnati, especially in this price range. But Colts are a complete fade to me right now. Not a lot to like there. Now, let's not forget that Pagano's terrible. I mean, the fact he's still there is ridiculous. I know they're trying to give him a little bit of a break for the health scare, but that's old news. It's time to think about football and what's best personnel-wise and coaching-wise for this team, and Chuck Pagano ain't it, period. To hell with what happened in the past. I know that's a terrible thing, cancer and that, but, it's time to move on. It really is.
All right, so we got fade Falcons, fade Colts. Donnie, anybody to add to that fade list?
There's a couple teams I had on there. Indianapolis, yes, would definitely be one. I mean, if you're just looking around, and say, well, what do they have to go for? They're now in look-ahead mode. And what I mean by that is coach going to get fired. Jacoby Brissett's not the future. People are just going to be internalizing, saying, all right, who are we going to keep next year? That doesn't bode well for going forward, because even if you took overall and looked at the Indianapolis schedule coming along, when they step up in competition, the way I like to talk about, 46-9 versus the Rams. You play a terrible Arizona team, 16-13. A terrible Cleveland team. Yes, you won 31-28, but then you step back up in class for Seattle, 46-18. You play San Francisco, who stinks, 26-23. You play Tennessee, who's a little bit better. You lose by 2 touchdowns. You play Jacksonville, who's better. You lose by 4 touchdowns, 27-0. So when you just take the MO and you're looking at the team, there's not really any layups left on that schedule. You're not going to play, the Arizona Cardinals again. You're not going to play San Francisco again. You're going to go out and play a real football team this weekend. So if you're looking to fade an organization instead of even just a team, I know we like to pick on Cleveland, but there's nowhere to go for Indianapolis right now. They're going to get shelled. So I'm just going to back up. I'm going to go again with the fade team. I'll stick with Ian as well. It's going to be the Colts for me, because there's no reason for them to win any more football games. When the coach is out the door, nobody else cares. It's self-preservation mode for that entire organization. They're going to play another good football team that needs to win. They're going to get shelled.
And I hate to be the guy here, but I'm going to be it. They haven't had a winning season and won't have a winning season in 3 straight years. It was 5 years ago he returned to coaching after having cancer. It's time to move on. This is a business. It's not a charity case. We're not here to give people jobs. It's a business. He's not been good enough. Move on, cut the dead weight, get a young coach in there like every other team started to do, and start to win again. The Rams did it. Other teams are doing it. It's time to wake up as a group there. Unfortunately, they're headed by people that have no real kin to town either. So it doesn't really surprise me, but that was 5 years ago. It wasn't last year. It was in 2012. Move on, fire the man and move on. Get someone else in there. Get some life back into this team. Figure out what you're doing at quarterback. All that stuff. How long, guys, is this defense? This defense has been bad for 3-4 years now. Just dreadful every year. They're just a bad football team. I mean, he's 3-3 in the postseason. He's not any horse whisperer or anything. For me, it's all over me. Get Pagano out of there. Move on.
And they have no pass rush, none whatsoever. I mean, the quarterback's got all day and all night to throw the football back there when they're playing this Colts team. And I agree, it's been an old boys club from a head coach's perspective for a long time. It's time to follow the lead of the Bills and the Rams, who've got a couple of good Seans in there, McVay and McDermott, 2 guys that I think are building a decent little coach of the year, reasoning so far with the way they've gone with their 2 teams so far. It's time to get younger. It's a younger league. It's a more offensive driven league. You need more creative, innovative, younger minds now in pro football. We're starting to see teams go that way. I think the Colts certainly should go that way as well.
The problem there is you have an owner that is, complete moron. I mean, we all know about him. I mean, he's yeah, he's a drunk. I mean, he probably doesn't even know what's going on half the time. It's a mess there. It's a shame because they had many good years. I mean, Peyton Manning and those guys, they've just fallen off and fallen away. It's it's time to move on from him.
There's an interesting organization. You have some blind spots. Like Andy Reid's blind spot in Philadelphia was the fact that saying you never need a really good wide receiver. You finally get one and dominate, then you throw him on the trash pile the next year and say you don't really need a wide receiver anymore. Looking back at the Colts' MO, their entire career, from basically when they got Peyton Manning, was they could never find anybody on defense that could play any football. They used to have, a couple good outside linebackers. And it used to be every year is, why don't we just put Bob Sanders on IR until the playoffs, and then maybe he can come back and help us a little bit, was always their MO. They lucked out getting into Peyton Manning, the number 1 draft pick. Say what you want about, the previous GM, Polian, who always thought he was the genius, and he'll try to make an argument saying it was really close to draft Ryan Leaf. Well, he never put a roster around it. I'll give him very good credit for Edgerrin James, the Marvin Harrisons, Reggie Wayne, and Peyton Manning. Outside of that, they drafted terribly over the years, hid behind great quarterbacks, and who fell right into Andrew Luck with Peyton Manning getting that neck injury and then just letting Manning go. He had a couple good years. Now he's banged up as well. Future is low there. In Indianapolis, because the coverage bad.
Another problem here is Jim Irsay didn't do anything to deserve this. He was handed it by his father. He didn't do anything.
Most of the same thing with Jed York. I mean, you could look at any ownership out there. They hand it down to a bunch of bums that just fall into the job.
And that's the problem here. I mean, what did Jim Irsay do to make his money in the world? Nothing. I mean, he didn't do anything. He failed in college, and he was handed a business. And a lot of people get it. Some people are good at it, and some people aren't. Jim Irsay's not been good at it. You're going to deal with this for a while because, unfortunately, unless he sells the team, it doesn't matter. Overall, he was handed a company, and he's failed at it mostly.
Yeah.
And the Rooney family's done good work in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, but that's not always the case for every franchise. You just don't get that stability at the ownership position with every franchise. And Colts haven't necessarily had that with Jim Irsay. Let's put it that way.
No, good discussion, guys. Hey, let's break down an NFL game. What way we're looking to bet it on the Sunday card. We got the Oakland Raiders, Buffalo Bills here. And one thing I noticed from researching this game is two teams ATS-wise, pretty much exact opposite profiles. We got Buffalo 4-1 ATS coming off their first loss against the number, going against Oakland, who just dropped 4 straight ATS, but won outright as in their last game as 3-point dogs to Kansas City. So two teams opposite directions as far as betting wise in their backers. How are we looking to bet this one? Big man, start us off.
Well, I mean, Buffalo's a team that I think we got to start kind of buying into a little bit.
Hey, wait, big man. Yeah. Hey, let me cut you off a little bit. You got a mic issue.
Roboto, yes.
Yeah, you got a mic issue. So if you could just work that out, and we'll go right to Donnie. Donnie, how you looking to bet this one?
It's an interesting one. You picked out a really tough game to actually go over and cap. You're looking at Oakland coming off the bye, or coming off the mini bye, I should say, playing on Thursday Night Football with a really nice win over the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be without Marshawn Lynch, which again, I don't really know how much that's going to overall impact their offense. I do like the way the Buffalo Bills play, really like the way they play at home. But your first initial indication when you look at this game, you go -2.5. Like it seems a little bit cheap there if you're going to look to back the Buffalo Bills, who I think are overall the better team. But it's interesting with Buffalo. I like Buffalo when last week -3 versus Tampa Bay, should have handled that, should have covered it, made some mistakes late. Actually lucky to pull out that winner, getting that fumble late in the game. Buffalo as a favorite here, as a favorite in most situations, I struggle with because I know they're a good football team. They're going to play defense. They're going to keep it close. But do they have the ability to step up? Because Oakland, if they get right, you're going to look at Carr a little bit healthier than he was in the past. 2 good wide receivers. Maybe they get a little bit of good mojo having that week off, pounding on the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, coming east is going to be a tough one. Buffalo plays very well at home. This is one of those games that, I could see it go either way with a coin flip. If I had to bet this football game, I do love home teams in this environment, especially when West Coast coming to East Coast and playing. But don't hold off because they're going to get a little bit rested and ready for this game. Oakland, I think Oakland can score on Buffalo, but I don't know if they have that determination on defense. I just think Tyrod Taylor can make a few extra plays with his feet to keep those chains moving. I would lean Buffalo in this situation, especially if it's under 2.5. If we're looking at 3.5, Drew, I might lean the other situation. But right now, give me Buffalo under 3.
Drew, your mic.
What's going on? What's going on over here? What is this?
His mic is muted.
His mic's muted. Mute your mic. Drew, your mic. The mic is off. Mic
My
on.
bad, bro.
There we go.
I was trying to give Steven a shout out in the chat here, saying Donnie has always really good NFL knowledge and good interesting facts. So hats off to you, Donnie, on the NFL stuff.
But I thought I gave such a good breakdown that you were just astonished. Like you just sit back and it's like that little meme that's like this.
No, sorry about that, guys. But big man, you back, man? Let's give your mic a try.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, good.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as look, I agree with everything Donnie said. I mean, Oakland, you're just waiting for them to kind of show out and show up. I mean, they kind of did it last week, which you got to feel kind of confident in. They did it against a pretty solid defense, but now you're going to have to go on the road and do it again to a place in Buffalo that it's going to be tough to do it against. The thing about Buffalo is that I kind of like here is Buffalo is not a great pass defense, 20th in the league. The run defense is really good. I'd expect Oakland to probably just abandon the run here, which will be a little bit of a trouble because they'll start to, kind of just drop people back and make it more difficult. But Oakland, until they can find a way to run the ball a little bit, you have to have a little bit of ability to run the ball. No Marshawn Lynch, no real consistent running back. It's going to be difficult. This is going to be a cauldron you're going into. I mean, that's always a tough place to play. They're starting to gain confidence. And I got to tell you, I like Tyrod Taylor. He played well last week. Sean McCoy's starting to play out. He's a pretty good quarterback. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're starting to see that. I mean, you got to kind of grab and hold on to the people you have at this point. And I think Buffalo Bills fans are starting to see that he's the best option for your team. So you might as well just embrace it and move on. I don't trust the Oakland Raiders defensively whatsoever. I think you got to keep kind of riding this Buffalo Bills team here at home. A nice little line here. I think people will buy in a little bit to the Raiders, maybe thinking they're back, but I just really don't want to bet against Buffalo right now. So shout out to the Buffalo Bills fans playing well.
Riding Buffalo from Big Man. Ian, you agree with that?
I like the total more than the side. I'm going to look up and over the total here in this game. What are we looking at right now? 45 and a half in this game. Look, Buffalo's defense is making great strides this year under Sean McDermott. They're building some young playmakers back there. Poyer, Gaines, you go on down the list. There's a lot of new personnel that they've brought in, although he is questionable. You're going to want to watch that. They did lose some members of that secondary last week to injury against Tampa Bay. Gaines, one of those guys. He's got a hamstring injury, questionable right now. Sunday's game, key cog in that pass defense for the Bills. You're going to want to watch that. That's something that Derek Carr and the Raiders could be able to exploit here, and this is going to have to be a pass-heavy, pass-oriented Oakland offense here in this game. Down Marshawn Lynch. I mean, Jalen Richard, DeAndre Washington, you're not going to put your eggs in the running game, I think, with those two guys carrying the rock for you. So it's going to have to be through the air for Derek Carr, to Amari Cooper, to the tight end Jared Cook, to the weapons that he has to Michael Crabtree, Seth Roberts. You're going to have to look for guys like that down the field in the passing game if you're going to be able to move the football, especially with Buffalo's weakness a little bit due to injuries on that side in the pass defense. So that's something you're going to want to watch for. I think Oakland can move the ball against Buffalo's defense. They've been very, very good, but look at who they've played a little bit. Jets, not a great offense. Carolina, when Cam Newton was rusty, struggling, had no training camp or preseason early on in the season when Cam was not really playing that well. Denver's offense, which has really declined in recent weeks with Simeon. Atlanta, well, let's be honest. Atlanta's offense is overrated. They got Sarkisian that decides, let's on 4th and 1, 4th and goal, let's do a sweep instead of just handing the ball off shotgun or right under center there to Freeman for a touchdown. Disgraced by Sarkisian. That might have been the single worst play call I've seen in my lifetime. So let's get over ourselves with talking about how great Atlanta's offense is. Their coordinator's a dope, doesn't know what he's doing as far as I'm concerned. Cincinnati, again, a mediocre offense. They perked up a little bit. And then Tampa Bay came in there and moved the ball pretty good against Buffalo last week with Jameis Winston. I think Oakland can do that, but I don't trust Oakland's defense. Come on, that's an Oakland defense that can be moved on. Tyrod Taylor, as always, consistently, since he's joined the Bills, he's been better at home than he's been on the road. And you look at the Bills last year in terms of their home games, they were an over machine at home last year. Every game, they were a perfect 8-0 to the over at home last year. More home games so far this season have gone over the number. I think we get a little bit of more points here than people think. I'll go over the 45.5 Raiders and Bills here.
All right, Ian, good breakdown, guys. And anything else NFL-wise before we move on?
No, not really. I mean, the NFL is what it is, week to week at this point. Some good games, some good spots this week that we can pick on. Thursday Night Football, I mean, if you like offense, you might want to close your eyes on that one on Thursday, though.
Yeah, not liking what, the Dolphins?
I actually like the Dolphins a little bit in that game. It was 3.5. I think 3.5 is a decent price if you're going to take a road team on a Thursday night. I don't like what Baltimore brings to the table, and we talked about it for a lot. Jay Cutler finally not starting a quarterback, get a little bit more mobility with Matt Moore in the football game, and I think they're actually a better overall football team without Cutler.
And it is the short week with them playing on Sunday, so it's a tough one. But all right, guys, hey. Good discussion on the NFL.
Hey, I got to bail myself out here. SBR odds page. I just realized 45 is available on that total. Raiders.
No stale numbers.
45. No stale numbers. SBR odds. Stay on top of that. You'll always know what the live odds are at all times. 45 is out there. Get that number. Get the best of it at all times.
I wonder if Pete's watching right now. He'd be proud of you. But all right, guys, let's get into actually, we got over 120 people watching right now. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Please give us a thumbs up, a like button. That helps us out a lot.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.